left our marks.
The silence beneath the sand. A cold shadows. Investigation. Hook opening. The video that shouldn't exist. The SD card arrived at Phoenix Police Department on October 3, 2019, in a manila envelope with no return address. Inside was a single memory card and a handwritten note. They're still down there. Check timestamp 11:47. When Detective Sarah Chen loaded the footage, her blood ran cold. Two faces stared back at her through the screen, faces she'd seen before in missing persons files from 2012. But this video was dated September 28, 2019, 7 years after they vanished. Marcus Reed and Sophia Martinez, adventure bloggers who disappeared in the Arizona desert without a trace. The investigation went cold. The case was closed. Their families mourned. But at timestamp 11:47, the camera panned left, and standing in the shadows of an abandoned mine shaft was a figure in a gas mask, watching them, silent, unmoving, as if they'd been there the entire time. Welcome to Cold Shadows. Tonight we investigate a case where the truth wasn't buried by time. It was buried by people who knew exactly where to dig.
Because sometimes the most terrifying thing isn't what happened in the dark. It's who was watching from the shadows all along. Subscribe now, because this story will make you question everything you thought you knew about missing persons cases. Chapter 1. The Discovery. September 29, 2019. Copper Ridge Desert, Arizona.
3 college students from Arizona State, Jake Wilson, Mia Santos, and Devin Clark, weren't supposed to be in Sector 7 of the Copper Ridge Mining District. The area had been off-limits since 1998, fenced off with rusted chain link and faded warning signs. But urban exploration was their passion, and their YouTube channel, Forgotten Spaces, needed content. At 3:42 p.m., Devin's GoPro captured what would become evidence in one of the strangest cold cases to resurface in Arizona history. They'd squeezed through a gap in the fence and hiked 2 miles into the desert when Jake spotted it. A mine entrance partially hidden by a rock slide, its opening just wide enough for a person to slip through. "Should we?" Mia asked, her voice uncertain. Devin was already pulling out his flashlight. 30 minutes, in and out. The mine shaft descended at a steep angle, the walls scarred with ancient drill marks. 50 meters in, the passage opened into a chamber, and that's when they saw them. 2 figures sat against the far wall, perfectly upright, as if they'd simply decided to rest and never got up again. Mia screamed. Jake's flashlight clattered to the ground, but Devin, hands shaking, zoomed in his camera lens. The bodies wore hiking gear, expensive boots. A North Face backpack lay between them, and on the man's wrist was a smartwatch, its screen dark but intact. "Call 911, Devin whispered, "right now." Chapter 2. The Identities. Phoenix Police Department, October 1, 2019. Detective Sarah Chen had seen plenty of desert deaths in her 15 years with Phoenix PD. Hikers who underestimated the heat, lost tourists who ran out of water, drug runners who crossed the wrong cartel. But this was different. The forensics report landed on her desk at 9 a.m. Marcus Reed, 31, and Sophia Martinez, 28. Missing since June 2012. Case file, the 2012 H0847. Status, closed, presumed deceased. Sarah pulled up their file on her computer, studying the photographs from 7 years ago. Marcus Reed, former Army medic turned adventure blogger. Over 200,000 followers on his channel, Off-the-Grid Living. Experienced survivalist. Published a book on desert navigation. Sophia Martinez, freelance photographer and environmental scientist. Her last Instagram post showed a sunset over red rocks with the caption, "Into the unknown. Back in a week." They never came back. The initial investigation in 2012 was thorough. Their rental Jeep was found abandoned 15 miles from where they'd planned to camp. Keys in ignition, supplies intact, No signs of struggle. Search parties scoured 400 square miles. Helicopters, K9 units, volunteers. Nothing. After 6 months, the case was closed. The families held memorial services. Their YouTube channel became a digital shrine. But now, 7 years later, here they were, sitting in a mine shaft that wasn't on any official map, looking like they'd sat down just yesterday. Sarah's phone buzzed. Text from the forensics lab. You need to see this. Camera recovered from backpack. The videos, they don't make sense. Chapter 3. The footage. Forensics lab, Phoenix, PD. The technician, a nervous young man named Alex Park, had already watched the recovered footage 3 times. Each viewing left him more unsettled than the last. The camera's a Canon EOS 5D Mark III, Alex explained, his voice tight. High-end, used by professionals. The battery was dead, but the SD card was intact. He pulled up the first video file. Date stamp, June 12, 2012. Marcus appeared on screen, grinning, desert wind whipping his hair. Day 3 of our Copper Ridge expedition. Sophia found something incredible, an old mining map at a garage sale. Check this out. The camera panned to Sophia, holding up a yellowed, hand-drawn map. Red X marks dotted various locations. These aren't on modern maps, Sophia said, excitement in her voice. The woman who sold it to me said her grandfather worked here in the 1950s. Military contract, she said. Totally hush-hush. Marcus zoomed in on one particular marking. RH9, restricted, do not enter. We're going to find it, Marcus said to the camera. Tomorrow morning. The next video was dated June 13, 2012. 7:23 a.m. They were standing at a mine entrance, the same one where their bodies would be found 7 years later. This is it, Sophia whispered, her voice tinged with nervous excitement. RH9. It's not on any GPS, not on Google Maps, but it's here. Marcus attached a headlamp. Safety first. We go in 30 meters, document what we find, and head back before noon. Sophia, you okay? She nodded, but Sarah noticed her hands trembling as she adjusted her camera strap. The next file made Sarah's stomach drop. Date stamp, June 13, 2012. 11:47 a.m. The footage was dark, lit only by bobbing flashlight beams, heavy breathing, the sound of boots on stone. Marcus, do you hear that? Sophia's voice strained. Hear what? Like humming, mechanical, coming from deeper in. A long pause. Then Marcus, we should head back. Wait, look at this wall, these markings. Marcus, this is... A loud metallic clang echoed through the tunnel. Both flashlights swung toward the sound, and there, standing in a side passage about 20 feet away, was a figure, tall, wearing what looked like an old hazmat suit or gas mask, completely still. Sophia gasped. Who's? The figure didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there watching them through the dark lenses of the mask. We're leaving, Marcus said, his voice steady but urgent. Now. The camera jerked as they turned around, and the video ended abruptly. Alex paused the playback. That's the last video from June 13th. But detective, there are more files, dated days later. Sarah leaned forward. Show me. The next video was dated June 16, 2012, 3 days after the encounter. The footage was shaky, filmed in near darkness. Sophia's voice, barely a whisper. This is day 4. We can't find the exit. Marcus marked our path with chalk arrows, but when we go back, they're gone. Someone's erasing them. A pause. Sound of shallow breathing. The figure. We've seen it 3 more times. Always in the distance. Always watching. It doesn't come closer. It just stands there. Marcus's voice, off camera, hoarse. We need to conserve battery. Turning off camera. The file ended. 1 more video remained. June 18th, 2012. 2:34 a.m. The camera was on the ground, pointed at an angle. Marcus and Sophia sat against a wall, wrapped in emergency blankets. Sophia was crying softly. Marcus held her hand. "If anyone finds this," Marcus said, staring directly into the lens, "we're in mine shaft RH9, Copper Ridge District. We've been down here 6 days. No food left. Half a bottle of water. We tried every tunnel. They all loop back. Someone sealed the exits from outside." His voice cracked. "The figure. It's not trying to hurt us. It's just making sure we can't leave." Sophia looked up. Why? Why would someone... A sound interrupted her. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, echoing from somewhere in the darkness. Marcus grabbed the camera, killing the light. The audio continued for another 40 seconds. Breathing, the scrape of boots on stone getting closer. Then a voice. Distorted, electronic, barely human. Restricted area. No unauthorized access. Silence. The video ended. Alex looked at Sarah with haunted eyes. "Detective, there's something else. The SD card had deleted files. We recovered fragments. You need to hear this." He played an audio clip. Heavy static, but underneath it, a conversation. Male voice. "How long have they been down there?" Second male voice. 5 days. They'll run out of air soon." First voice. "And the bodies?" Second voice. "Leave them. Seal it up. Nobody knows about RH9 anyway." First voice. "What about the families?" A long pause. Then, "They went missing in the desert. Happens all the time. Case will close itself." The audio cut off. Sarah sat back in her chair, her mind racing. This wasn't an accident. They were trapped deliberately. Someone knew they were down there and left them to die. "Gets worse," Alex said grimly. "We analyzed the gas mask figure, enhanced the image as much as we could." He pulled up a still frame, zoomed in. The gas mask was military grade. But more disturbing was what was visible on the figure's shoulder, a patch, faded but clear enough to make out. 3 letters. DOBS. Department of Energy. Sarah felt her blood run cold. This isn't a local case anymore. Chapter 4. The Map. Sarah's first call was to Marcus Reed's sister, Elena Reed, who'd never stopped looking for answers. They met at a coffee shop in Tempe. Elena brought a cardboard box filled with Marcus's belongings, the things the police had returned after the case closed. "I knew he didn't just get lost," Elena said, her voice thick with emotion. "Marcus could navigate blindfolded, and Sophia had a PhD in geology. They wouldn't make rookie mistakes." Sarah pulled out an evidence photo, the hand-drawn map Sophia had shown in the video. Elena's eyes widened. "I've never seen that before. Where did they get it?" "The video said a garage sale. Do you know which one?" Elena thought for a moment. "Marcus mentioned something about... Wait." She dug through the box, pulling out a crumpled receipt. "This, June 9th, 2012, Desert Relics estate sale in Wickenburg." Sarah took the receipt. "I need to find whoever ran that sale." Wickenburg, Arizona, October 4th, 2019. The address led Sarah to a small antique shop called Yesterday's Treasures. An elderly woman, Lorraine Vega, sat behind the counter, working on a crossword puzzle. "I'm looking for information about an estate sale you ran in June 2012, Sarah said, showing her badge. Lorraine's face tightened. "That was years ago. I need to know who you got those items from. Specifically, old mining maps." The woman hesitated, then sighed. "That sale was for the estate of Roger Vega. My uncle. He died 3 months before, and I was clearing out his house." "What did your uncle do for a living?" "He worked for the government, some kind of engineer. Never talked about it much. After he retired in 1985, he became paranoid. Kept saying they'd come for him if he talked." Sarah leaned forward. "Come for him about what?" Lorraine stood, walking to a back room. She returned with an old shoebox. After Uncle Roger died, I found this hidden in his basement, behind a false wall. I didn't know what to do with most of it, so I put it in the estate sale. But I kept a few things. She opened the box. Inside were photographs, documents, and another copy of the map. But this map had annotations, handwritten notes in the margins. RH9, bioweapon storage, sealed 1982. Do not excavate. Active contamination zone. Observation protocol. Weekly surveillance. Report any intrusion. Sarah's hands shook as she read. Your uncle was monitoring these sites? He was part of something called Project Hard Rock. That's all I know. After he retired, he wouldn't stop checking. He'd drive out to the desert every week, said he was making sure the doors stayed locked. Did he ever mention seeing anyone at the sites? Lorraine's face went pale. 2 weeks before he died, he came home terrified. Said he'd seen people at RH9, young couple. Said he tried to warn them away, but they'd already found the entrance. Sarah felt ice in her veins. Did he report it? He called someone. I heard him yelling on the phone. They're inside RH9. You need to get them out. But whoever he called, they told him to stay away, that it was being handled. What happened then? He had a heart attack 3 days later. Doctor said it was stress-induced. Lorraine's voice dropped to a whisper. But I found his journal. The last entry said, "They're not trying to save those kids." Chapter 5. The Pattern. Back at the station, Sarah started digging into Project Hard Rock. Official records were sparse, mostly redacted documents from the Department of Energy's declassified archives, but the fragments told a story. 1952-1985, Project Hard Rock. Secret underground research facility, focused on defensive chemical storage. Multiple shaft systems across Arizona-Nevada border region, officially decommissioned in 1985, all sites marked permanently sealed. But one document caught Sarah's attention. A 1983 memo. RH9 decommissioning problematic. Structural instability prevents complete sealing. Recommend ongoing monitoring and containment protocol. Civilian access must be prevented at all costs. Sarah called her contact at the FBI, Agent David Torres. I need help with something that's way above my pay grade, she told him. 20 minutes later, Torres called back. His voice was tense. Detective, I'm going to say this once. Drop this case. Excuse me? RH9 is federal property, DOE jurisdiction. You're treading on classified ground. 2 people died down there. They were trapped intentionally. That's murder. That's a matter of national security. The site is contaminated. Anyone who enters is subject to quarantine protocols. So you're saying they were left to die because of protocols? A long silence. Then, I'm saying there are things you don't understand. Things I can't explain. But if you keep pushing, you'll find yourself reassigned to traffic duty. The line went dead. Sarah knew she should stop, but she couldn't. She requested the original 2012 investigation files. Something had been bothering her. The search grid used by rescue teams had avoided a specific area, almost deliberately. She spread maps across her desk, overlaying the search patterns with the Project Hard Rock site locations. And there it was. The rescue helicopters had flown right over RH9. Multiple times, but never stopped, never searched that specific area. Someone had told them not to. Sarah pulled the search commander's report from 2012. Commander Robert Nash, Arizona Search and Rescue. She tracked Nash down to a retirement home in Flagstaff. He agreed to meet her, but looked nervous when she arrived. I remember that case, Nash said quietly. Reed and Martinez. We searched for 3 weeks. Why didn't you search Sector 7? Nash's hands trembled. I received a call. Federal agent. Said that area was off limits due to hazardous materials. Gave me coordinates to avoid. Did you question it? I'm not stupid, detective. But when the federal government tells you to stay away from somewhere, you stay away. Those kids signed their own death warrant when they went into RH9. You knew they were there? Nash looked away. I suspected, but I had orders, and I had 30 volunteers who didn't need to be exposed to whatever was down there. So you just left them? I made a choice. Save my team or save 2 people who ignored every warning sign. His voice hardened. Don't you judge me. You weren't there. Sarah stood up. Did you ever wonder why the government cared so much about keeping people away from an abandoned mine? Every day, Nash whispered, but I have grandkids. I want to keep seeing them. Chapter 6. The Anonymous Package. The SD card that started everything arrived at Phoenix PD on October 3, 2019. Sarah had been so focused on the footage that she'd almost forgotten about the note. They're still down there. Check timestamp 11:47. Who sent it? How did they get the SD card? That night, Sarah's phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text message. You're asking the right questions, but you're running out of time. They know you're investigating. Sarah typed back, Who is this? 3 dots appeared. Then, someone who worked at RH9, someone who can't stay silent anymore. Meet me tomorrow. 2 p.m., Desert Rose Diner on Route 60. Come alone. Desert Rose Diner, October 5th, 2019. The diner was nearly empty. Sarah sat in a back booth, her service weapon tucked under her jacket. At 2:07 p.m., a man walked in. Late 50s, gray hair, wearing a faded denim jacket. He scanned the room, then slid into the booth across from her. I'm Thomas Brennan, he said quietly. I was a safety engineer for the Department of Energy. Worked at RH9 from 1978 to 1985. Sarah's recorder was in her pocket, already running. Why contact me now? Because I can't sleep anymore. Because those kids didn't have to die. His hands shook as he reached for his coffee. RH9 wasn't just a storage facility. It was a research lab. Cold War era. They were developing chemical weapons. Stuff that made nerve gas look tame. I thought it was decommissioned. Decommissioned doesn't mean cleaned. Some of the compounds we stored down there have half-lives of decades, maybe centuries. The site is still contaminated. That's why it's monitored. Monitored by who? A private contractor. Apex Environmental Services. They're supposed to make sure no one gets in, but they also make sure no one gets out. Sarah felt her stomach drop. You're saying they knew Marcus and Sophia were down there? Brennan nodded. The site has motion sensors, seismic detectors, cameras. The second those kids broke the outer seal, alarms went off at Apex headquarters. So why didn't they rescue them? Because the protocol is containment, not rescue. Anyone who enters an active contamination zone is considered exposed. Standard procedure is to seal the breach and wait. Wait for what? For them to die. Then you extract the bodies in hazmat suits, sanitize the scene, and classify it as a desert disappearance. Happens every few years. Curious hikers, copper thieves, urban explorers. Brennan's voice cracked. They all end up the same way. Sarah leaned forward. How many others? In the last 30 years? At least a dozen. Maybe more. RH9 isn't the only site. There are 17 sealed facilities across Arizona and Nevada. All monitored. All deadly. Why are you telling me this now? Because someone at Apex is covering their tracks. After those college kids found the bodies, they sent a team to sanitize RH9. But they didn't find the SD card, and now they know someone leaked footage to the police. He pulled out a flash drive, sliding it across the table. This is everything. Internal memos, surveillance logs, names. It's enough to burn the whole program down. Sarah reached for the drive, and Brennan grabbed her wrist. Listen to me carefully. The people running this don't just work for the government. They are the government. If you expose this, they'll destroy you. Your career. Your life. Maybe worse. Why give me this if it's so dangerous? Brennan's eyes were haunted. Because I was there in 2012. I was monitoring the sensors when Marcus and Sophia triggered the alarm. I was the one who recommended sealing the entrance. His voice broke. I told myself I was following protocol, that it wasn't my fault they ignored the warnings. But I hear them every night. In my dreams, banging on those sealed walls, screaming for help. He stood up. Don't try to contact me again. I've already said too much. Wait, one more thing. Who sent me the SD card? Brennan paused at the door. There was a young tech at Apex. Jamie Ortiz. She pulled the SD card during the body recovery. Couldn't live with keeping it secret. She mailed it to you before she... He trailed off. Before she what? Before her car went off Highway 10 3 days ago. Single vehicle accident. No witnesses. Brennan's face was grim. There are no accidents in this business, detective. He walked out without looking back. Chapter 7. The cover-up unravels. Sarah spent 2 days reviewing the flash drive contents in a secure location. Her sister's house in Tucson, nowhere near Phoenix PD. The files were damning. Surveillance log, June 13, 2012. 9:47 a.m. Seismic sensors detect 2 individuals entering RH9. 10:15 a.m. Motion cameras confirm unauthorized entry. 11:23 a.m. Regional supervisor notified. 11:45 a.m. Directive issued. Initiate containment protocol theta. 11:52 a.m. Explosives deployed to collapse outer tunnel. Status: site secured. Subjects contained. Memo, June 19, 2012. From Director, Apex Environmental Services. To Field Team Alpha. Subject, RH9 incident. Final sweep confirms 2 subjects expired, 6/18/2012. Bodies positioned to suggest voluntary entry and disorientation. All emergency supplies staged appropriately. Scene sanitization complete. Local authorities advised site is unsearchable due to hazardous conditions. No further action required. Sarah felt sick. They'd watched Marcus and Sophia die, day by day, hour by hour. And documented every moment, but there was more. A spreadsheet titled Containment Events, 1985-2019, 17 incidents, 17 sets of names, 17 families who never got answers, and one entry made Sarah's heart stop. August 2003, RH12 site. Subjects, Michael Chen, 17, David Chen, 15. Status, contained 8/14/2003, expired 8/19/2003. Classification, desert accident, case closed. Sarah knew those names, the Chen brothers, Phoenix locals. Their disappearance had been all over the news. She'd been a rookie cop then, watching the desperate search efforts. They were brothers, teenagers, and they'd been left to die in the dark. Sarah made her decision. She couldn't go through official channels. Too many people who'd bury this. But she knew someone who wouldn't. Sandra Reeves, investigative journalist for the Arizona Republic, Pulitzer nominee, fearless. They met in a parking garage. Sarah handed her a copy of the flash drive. This is everything, Sarah said. Names, dates, locations, evidence of systematic cover-ups of at least 17 deaths. But I need you to protect your source. My career is dead if this traces back to me. Sandra's eyes widened as she reviewed the files. Holy shit! This is massive. When can we publish? Give me 48 hours to warn the families. They deserve to hear it from me first. October 8th, 2019. Elena Reed's house. Sarah sat across from Marcus's sister, hands folded on the table. I found out what happened to your brother, Sarah said softly. She explained everything. The contaminated site, the sensors, the protocols, the deliberate decision to let them die rather than risk exposure. Elena listened in silence, tears streaming down her face. So they knew, she whispered. The whole time, They knew Marcus and Sophia were down there, and they just waited for them to die. Yes. Why? Why wouldn't they at least try to save them? Because saving them would have meant admitting the site existed, admitting it was still dangerous, admitting the government has been lying about decommissioning these facilities for 30 years. Elena's grief turned to rage. I want names. Every person who made that decision, every person who covered it up. There's going to be a story, major newspaper. It'll name names. But Elena, Sarah's voice was heavy. This is going to get ugly. There are powerful people who don't want this public. You need to be prepared. I've been prepared for 7 years. Let them come. Chapter 8. The Backlash. The Arizona Republic published Sandra Reeves's story on October 10, 2019. Death by Protocol: How Government Contractors Left. At least 17 people to die in secret contaminated sites. The story went viral. Within hours, 3 members of Congress demanded immediate investigations. The DOE issued a terse, no comment. Apex Environmental Services' stock plummeted 40%. Families of the other 16 victims began filing lawsuits, but the retaliation was swift. Day 1. Sarah was placed on administrative leave, pending investigation into leaked classified materials. Day 2. Her home was broken into, nothing stolen, but a message spray-painted on her living room wall. Drop it. Day 3. Her sister's car was vandalized. Stop before someone gets hurt. Day 4. Sandra Reeves received a cease and desist letter from Apex's legal team, threatening a $50 million defamation suit. But they'd underestimated something: public outrage. The story wouldn't die. More victims came forward. A former Apex employee gave an on-camera interview confirming everything. A whistleblower leaked internal communications showing DOE knew about the protocol. By October 20th, the dam had broken completely. Chapter 9. The Reckoning. November 2019. Congressional hearings began. Under oath, Apex executives and DOE officials were forced to testify. The director of Apex Environmental Services, Richard Kovach, stone-faced, read a prepared statement. Our protocols are designed to protect public safety. These sites contain dangerous materials. Unauthorized entry is a crime. We followed proper procedures. Senator Maria Cortez, leading the inquiry, wasn't having it. Mr. Kovach, proper procedures include watching people die via surveillance camera and doing nothing? The safety of our response teams. What about the safety of Marcus Reed, Sophia Martinez, the Chen brothers? 17 people, Mr. Kovach. You let 17 people suffocate in the dark because it was cheaper than mounting rescues. That's not. We have your internal memos. We have your cost-benefit analyses. You literally calculated that wrongful death settlements were cheaper than rescue operations. Is that correct? Kovach invoked his Fifth Amendment rights and refused to answer further questions. The hearings lasted 3 weeks. When they concluded, Apex Environmental Services declared bankruptcy amid criminal investigations. 4 DOE officials were fired. The FBI opened criminal investigations into negligent homicide. Congress passed the Reed-Martinez Act, requiring immediate rescue attempts for anyone trapped in federal contamination zones. But no one went to prison. Settlements were reached, NDAs were signed, and deep in classified archives, 17 case files were quietly sealed for the next 75 years. The Chapter 10, The Final Video. In December 2019, Elena Reed received a package, no return address. Inside was a USB drive and a note. Your brother wanted you to have this. TB. Thomas Brennan. The whistleblower had sent one final piece of evidence. On the drive was a video file, security camera footage from inside RH9, dated June 18, 2012, 2:47 a.m. The grainy infrared footage showed Marcus and Sophia barely conscious, slumped against the tunnel wall. Marcus looked up at the camera. He'd clearly found it hours earlier. His lips moved. No audio, but Elena could read his lips. "Tell Elena I love her. Tell Mom and Dad I'm sorry." He wiped tears from his eyes, then leaned his head back against the stone. Sophia stirred, resting her head on his shoulder. They sat like that for 3 more hours, visible on the timestamp, before going still. The video ended. Elena watched it once, just once. Then she destroyed the drive. She didn't need to see her brother's final moments again, but she needed to know that he'd thought of family at the end, that he'd tried to leave a message, and now, finally, she could grieve. Epilogue: The Memorial. May 2020, Copper Ridge Desert. Eleanor Reed stood with dozens of others at a newly erected memorial. 17 names carved into stone. 17 people who died in the dark. Sophia's mother placed flowers at the base. The Chen parents lit candles. Families who'd spent years wondering now stood together in shared grief. Sarah Chen, no longer with Phoenix PD, now working as a private investigator, watched from a distance. The case had cost her career. But she'd do it again. Because truth mattered. Because the dead deserved justice. Because someone had to speak for those who couldn't speak anymore. As the sun set over the desert, casting long shadows across the red sand, Elena approached Sarah. "Thank you," she said simply, "for not letting them be forgotten." Sarah nodded. "They never should have been lost in the first place. Do you think it'll really change anything? The hearings, the laws?" Sarah looked at the memorial, at the 17 names. "I don't know, but at least now people know. And maybe the next person who goes into the desert will think twice. Maybe the next government contractor will remember that protocols shouldn't matter more than lives. And if they don't, then someone like you will fight for the truth, again and again, until they do." Elena hugged her. When she pulled away, her eyes were dry but fierce. "There are more sights out there, aren't there?" Sarah didn't answer, but they both knew. Somewhere in the American desert, in a sealed tunnel marked with faded warning signs, another family's nightmare was waiting to begin, unless someone had the courage to stop it first. The End.